Hello, everyone, and welcome to a rather large section on my management channel here. It's human resources. Now, you may not realize it, but human resources is a lot more than what it appears to be on the surface. And we're going to explore that in this section. So, our first intro chapter here objectives are we want to examine the HR department and the staffing function that they perform. We're going to look at the employee selection process. We're going to examine the hiring decision and the importance of documentation. And we're going to learn some of the laws that HR ensures the organization adheres to, such as the EEO and the safety ones, OSHA. So, the human resource management system is where the organizational philosophies, policies, and practices that strive for the effective use of employees to achieve the organization's objectives. So, in other words, we want to cover everything that the people who are employed by the company to achieve the organization's objectives. The staffing function includes recruitment, selection, placement, orientation, training of employees, evaluation of employees' performance, and input into how employees are to be rewarded based upon their performance. So there's quite a bit there, a lot more than you probably thought. The Human Resources Department is a department that provides the advice and service to all the other departments in the organization on all human resource matters. It assists supervisors in staffing policies and decisions. It aids in the recruitment of the employees and management. And it ensures that the organization's employment policies and practices do, in fact, comply with the EEO laws and regulations. And we're going to go over a few of those here in a little bit. So, staffing and HR roles, they monitor the external environment for forces that are beyond the control of the organization, but could affect the long performance of the organization. They develop and initiate strategic initiatives that support the organization's mission and the organization's objectives. They manage the human resource process from recruiting and training to compensating and coordinating employee management relations activities. And they deal with the day-to-day supervision or employee issues that could impede any of the organizational's effectiveness, and to ensure that employee training takes place and maintains training records for all those employees and their training. So let's define a few terms. But first, why should we study HR management? Because staffing the organization, designing jobs and teams, developing skillful employees, identifying approaches for improving their performance, and rewarding employee successes are all HRM issues. So that's why we should study HR management. The human resource process really basically is a strategic human resources planning and job analysis. And then if you look to the right, it's attracting employees by recruiting and selecting. And then once they get them on board, we've got to develop them. So we've got to orientate them, train them, and once in place, do performance appraisals to see how they're doing. And then, of course, probably the most forgotten part is retention. We want to make sure that we have compensation that attracts the employee to remain with the organization. We want to make sure we abide by the health and safety labor relations. So there's a lot there. So what do? We recruit employees for interview. We do employee orientation. We oversee new employee training. Now, HR does not do the training, but they just make sure that the proper training gets done. And of course, they document it. They also develop the employee appraisal system, determine the compensation system for every worker, including management throughout the organization. They're responsible for health and safety programs, labor relations and counseling, terminations. HR is the only one that does terminations. And, of course, they have to maintain all employee records. So the responsibilities of human resources managers are to be able to give strategic advice and counsel, to provide a service, to provide policy formulation and implementation, and be an advocate for the employee between the employee and management, or in some cases, the employee and the union and management. Competencies human resource managers must have are a mastery of business, a mastery of HR principles, laws, and regulations, and they need to be very credible. Other factors, they need to be aware of the cultural and societal changes affecting the workforce. They need to know all about the employee's rights, privacy concerns of employees, such as HIPAA and so on, changing attitudes toward work, balancing a work and family atmosphere so the employee is not burnout, tired, frustrated, and leaves because they have no time for family. And so when you look at this chart, you can see there are a lot of things that go into HR management. And I'm leaving that there for a moment for you to study it. Okay. So, responding strategically to the changes in the marketplace. Well, HR management is aligned with the upper management to formulate a business strategy. Human resource managers need an intimate understanding of their firm's competitive business operations and strategies. They need to understand total quality management, re-engineering, the process of downsizing or outsourcing. They need to be very aware of change management and how to effectively bring change about in an organization. Reactive change, proactive change, and of course, Six Sigma, very important in industry today. So what is Six Sigma quality? It's a set of principles and practices whose core ideas include understanding customer needs, doing things right the first time, and striving for continuous improvement. Six Sigma itself is a process used to translate customer needs into a set of optimal tasks that are performed in concert with one another. And HR facilitates the organizational development of Six Sigma. HR also helps balance the opposing needs for order and control with the needs for growth and creativity. What is reengineering and how does this affect HR? Fundamental rethinking and radical redesign of business processes to achieve dramatic improvements in cost, quality, service, and speed. For instance, let's say that there's always been a problem having enough workers. We can't seem to get enough help. So they bring in robotics of some kind now to help fill that gap. And that means a radical rethinking and redesign of the process, while meantime ensuring employee safety. It requires that managers create an environment or change, depends on effective leadership and communication processes, and requires that administrative systems be reviewed and modified almost constantly. The Human Resources Information System is a computerized system that provides current and accurate data for purposes of control and decision making. It provides automation of routine tasks, lower administrative costs, increased productivity, and response times. Increased productivity is very important. That's what helps put more on the bottom line. Improve response times. Improve decision making and making data more available as needed. And it helps with online recruiting, screening, and possibly even pre-testing of applicants. And then the system also helps train, track, and select employees based on their record of skills and abilities for future promotions or upgrades. So let's go back to defining some terms again. Human capital, why is it important? The knowledge, the skills, and the capabilities of the individuals who work for you have an economic value to the organization. Human capital is intangible and cannot be managed the way organizations would manage jobs, products, and technologies. is valuable because capital is based on company-specific skills, mostly gained through long-term experience, and can be expanded upon with newer employees through development. Jack Welch, once the great CEO of General Electric, said, an organization's ability to learn and translate that learning into action rapidly is the ultimate competitive business advantage. Trust me, so true. So, preparing to meet staffing needs. How many positions do we need to get the job done? How many employees do we need altogether? How much for each station in the process? How much for shipping? How much for receiving employees and so forth? So HR has to figure out the needs of every little section and department in the organization. Then they have to develop job descriptions and job specifications, matching jobs with individuals with the aid of job descriptions, which indicate clearly what the duties and responsibilities are of each job. How many employees to hire? How many new positions will be coming up due to expansion or the creation of a new department? Do we have to look at hiring for replacement, retiring, or departing employees? Do we need new skill requirements? Are there new functions added to the department that we don't have anyone who has relative experience in? Increased workload for the department. Some of the recruiting sources, well, we can promote from within. We ask employees for referrals. And we can also look at previous applications. I'm sure some of you, when you applied somewhere, said we'd like to keep your resume on file. Well, yeah, that's so that they can go back and look later and say, hey, are you still looking for a job? External sources include somebody who might walk in, educational institutions where they do a career day, employment agencies, and obviously advertising in the newspaper or TV, radio, whatever, stating that you are hiring and need new employees. That regulate the HR process: Equal Employment Opportunity, the Civil Rights Act, Americans with Disability Acts, Equal Pay Act, and Occupational Safety and Health Act, just to name a few. So to be in HR, you have to be very familiar with all of these rules that regulate your business organization. Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibits employment practices that discriminate on the basis of race, gender, color, religion, and national origin. The Equal Employment Opportunity and Affirmative Action programs are such that employers must make good faith efforts to recruit, hire, and promote members of protected classes so that their percentages in the organization approximates their percentages in the labor market. In other words, keeping all. So to learn more about HR, I invite you to view the other topics in this section. There are going to be many. Thank you for watching and hope you'll watch the rest.